This video will show you how to use an option in the Light-O-Rama show editor that we kind of skipped over in earlier videos about the show editor. It's called Turn Used Lights Off at the end of each sequence. And before we get into exactly what that means, let's open up the show that we created in earlier videos. You might want to watch those earlier videos if you haven't already before watching this one. Anyway, here's the show that we created. Let's open it up, and we have sequences in our various sections of the show. Now, here's the option that we skipped over. Turn used lights off at the end of each sequence. And you'll notice that it's checked by default. And it's actually in a few different sections. It's in the shutdown section, which we just saw. It's also in the musical section, the animation section, and the startup section. And in each of these, it's controlled independently. So I could, for example, turn it off in the startup section. It'll still be on in the animation section. If I go back to the startup section, it'll still be off. Or we could do it vice versa. And you could make any combination of the option in those four sections. It can be on or off in any one of them, independently of all of the others. Now, what this option means is that whenever a sequence in this section finishes, for example, in the musical section, when this song finishes, if this is checked, then all of the lights that were used in that sequence, all of the strings of lights, all of the floodlights, anything that you have hooked up to any of your channels, all of them will automatically be turned off at the end of the sequence. If you uncheck it, then whatever happened to be on at the end of the sequence will remain on. So, like we said, we can control this independently in each of these four sections, but one place that people will often use it is in the shutdown section. Maybe at the end of your show, when everything is done for the night, you don't want your lights to just go off completely. Instead, you want several of your lights to stay on after the show is done as a kind of static Christmas light display. So in that case, you could uncheck this turn used lights off at the end of each sequence, and into your shutdown section, as the very last entry in it, add a sequence that will turn on the lights that you want to keep on. And for example, in this case, I made a static post-show sequence. So that sequence turns on the lights that I want to stay on for the rest of the night. And now when the show shuts down, the shutdown section begins, it'll play my thanks sequence. When thanks finishes up, it'll play my static post-show sequence. And in this sequence, I turn on a few lights, I turn off others. And when this sequence ends, the show ends. But whatever happened to be on when this sequence ends will remain on thereafter, because I unchecked this option in this section. So I think that's it for turn used lights off at the end of each sequence. I hope this helps.